After playtesting and free crafting Ayaka, I feel like she is neither weak or too strong. She is just in the right spot, a very balanced character. She is like in the same tier as Hu Tao and Xiao, and here is my first impression. As a reminder, first impression video are not character review. They are like a middle ground between release to character review because free crafting does take a lot of effort and time. Now, remember that in the Kazuha first impression video, a lot of people, including myself, thought Kazuha was very similar to Sucrose. However, later we discovered there are a lot of complex rotation you can do with Kazuha, which lets you double buff, double VV shred and stuff, which means he ended up being a lot better than what we thought. So let's start with what kind of Ayaka I have. I have a level 80 Ayaka with a 46% crit rate and a 173 crit damage. I am using the Refined 1 Black Sword, and I'm using the 4-step Blizzard Strayer, with my talent being 6, 6, and 6 since I do not have enough material to level them to 8, unfortunately. Ayaka kind of have this charge attack playstyle similar to Keqing, however Ayaka charge attack is actually really good. Ayaka's charge attack have really good range and really good AoE. Observe the amount of slime that it can hit and the amount of distance that it can hit. It can hit almost across 2 tiles on the floor, which is really good. And here you can even see that it's able to hit the Hilichurus on top of whatever this stone thing is. And yes, it can hit Venti's elemental burst. Now Ayaka's charge attack unfortunately have a lot of end lag on it. What it means is that observe how there's an animation where she put her sword back. And this is currently the fastest I can attack. You can see how there's a huge delay between the attack, which is really bad. So what you do instead is you can either dash cancel or jump cancel it. For example, you can either jump cancel between after every charge attack, and notice how it's so much faster now in comparison to just trying to spam charge attack. Similarly, you can also do dash cancel. So what you end up doing is that you weave your dash between every charge attack, which could feel very clunky and very unintuitive at the very beginning. However, with enough practice, you can actually do it quite well and quite smoothly. Keep in mind that when you do hit an enemy with your dash, you will regen 10 stamina, so there's actually not that much stamina issues with Ayaka. In comparison to her charge attack, her elemental burst was actually very disappointing in my opinion, mostly because of the lack of AoE. The range on it is actually surprisingly very small, and it's only able to hit 1 Geo Bishop in here. You have to have very good positioning to hit both of them, and because of the Ayaka dash, as well as the auto targeting in Genshin Impact, that is very hard to achieve. And don't forget that it stopped on the first enemy that hit, meaning that even though the enemy might be lined up, you actually cannot hit both of them. The lack of AoE on her elemental burst honestly is my absolutely biggest complaint. I think that if her bursts have good AoE, then she will actually be a really good character, but unfortunately it does not. The 80 energy cost on her burst end up actually not being a huge problem because she do generate a good amount of energy, and you do have the Diona available to you, which, you know, once again generate an insane amount of crowd energy. Even with 0 energy recharge, I find that I can get my elemental burst back up in a reasonable amount of time. Unlike Eula where I have to wait for 10 years, although I do have the Venti pairing right now with my Ayaka. We do have the new free-to-play craftable weapon in Inazuma that come with some amount of energy when you cast your elemental burst, and this weapon currently is calculated by the Chinese to be one of best Ayaka's weapon, so I fully suspect that Ayaka actually don't really have any energy regen problem at all. Yeah, so Ayaka elemental burst not having good AoE is honestly my only real complaint. Do remember that Ayaka's elemental burst account for almost half of her damage, if not more, so it not having a good AoE on it is honestly really disappointing. And not to mention about the fact that sometimes enemy can walk away from it or sometimes you can miss, so you don't hit the entire elemental burst on them. Although I found that it's actually not a big issue because if you're freezing them properly, then they wouldn't really be able to move away from it. Ayaka's elemental burst not having good AoE also mean that Morgana team is actually not good, or it's not that it's not good, but it's just not as good as I hope that it ought to be, since the signature of the Morgana team, at least with Ganyu, is that incredible AoE potential. But although I do have to say Ayaka apply cryo really fast because her normal attack and her charge attack actually do not share internal cooldown. Combined with the fact that her normal and her charge attack have multiple hit on it and how her elemental bursts work, she is probably one of the fastest character at breaking the Hydro Hero Shield right now. With Morgana team out of the question, I tried pairing my Ayaka with xingqiu and Kazuya to draft a typical freeze team to see how it performed it. And honestly, it performed it pretty well as you would expect from a typical freeze team. My biggest complaint about this is of course that it takes xingqiu, which, you know, xingqiu is already hungry enough with the pyro characters, and now we have another character that used xingqiu, which was very unfortunate. But Ayaka do work very well with xingqiu because every time you charge attack, you do a normal attack prior to that, which means you will proc the xingqiu's elemental burst. In comparison, either using Mona or Barbara just didn't have the same effect. Mona just couldn't keep the Hydro application long enough, and while Barbara can do it, Barbara's elemental skill cooldown is too long, so it's also not suitable. So yeah, we end up having another character that takes xingqiu, which is very unfortunate because we have enough of those. It's just not the same if you play without xingqiu, even when you use like a Hydro Sword Kazuya elemental burst. It's just not really the same, so once again, xingqiu is just not replaceable by anyone, and MiHoYo need to give us a second xingqiu. Nevertheless, I do think that overall Ayaka have a very similar performance to Xiao and Hu Tao. Previously, I thought that maybe Ayaka would be better because of the potential of drafting better team like with Fenty, like the Morgana team. But because that didn't really work and Ayaka Elemental Burst not having good AoE, I think that Ayaka is basically just in very similar tier as Hu Tao and Xiao. Not exactly better than Hu Tao and Xiao, but not exactly worse than Hu Tao or Xiao either. Just a very balanced and a very fair 5-star character. Many people were wondering the potential of Ayaka as a melt enabler for Xiangling, but it doesn't let you untie Xiangling from xingqiu, so you still need to bring xingqiu no matter what. And honestly, because of that, it's not really too different from bringing Chongyun. Potentially Chongyun is better because Chongyun have a 40 elemental cost burst, while Ayaka have a 80 elemental cost burst, and as a solo cryo, that's almost impossible to fund in a team like that. Overall, I actually think Ayaka is really simple and there's actually not that much to talk about. I do have to say I do really enjoy the entire charge attack and then dashing, weaving dashing playstyle. But of course that's just me. Maybe it's because it's something new from the usual playstyle. Some people might like that, some people might hate that. It's up to you, so be sure to test her charge attack out in the trial run. That's something you can really use it for. Overall, I would say like if you want to pull for Ayaka, if you want to play Ayaka, you can pull her. She's gonna be a character that can perform and clear Abyss similar to your other characters. But if you never cared about Ayaka to begin with, then it's like whatever, you don't really have to bother with it, right? I think Ayaka is probably one of the most balanced character there is so far, because unlike other character, Ayaka doesn't really have any like crazy thing. Like Hu Tao have a crazy high single target damage burst, and then you have Eula with a high damage per screenshot potential. Overall, I'm really happy with the performance of Ayaka. She is definitely not Ganyu level, which is kind of overpowered, but she's definitely not weak either, so a lot of players can easily enjoy and comfortably say she is gonna be a decently good character. Before we leave, I just want to showcase my support stat real quick since I did use them in the video, just in case you are unaware of what my damage is coming from, in case it is skewing the showcase. With 670 and then PV set on my Kazuya, PV set on my Venti, the typical Noblest Hydro set on my xingqiu, and then like some kind of 4 set Noblest with ER on my Mona. I believe these are all my characters in the showcase, and the Diona with, of course, just building a bunch of HP. Not even actually. Anyway, it is like 7 AM, I gotta go to sleep. Goodbye, see you guys next time.